Hey guys, welcome back. Yesterday, after office hours, I had several people reach out and request that I make a video of the office hours notes so that they could listen to them as well as read them. The topic yesterday was creating a healthy distance. So, this is for everyone who requested a YouTube video for office hours, and for everyone else who's not in office hours. I hope something resonates with you. So, here we go, creating a healthy distance. This past week in office hours, we looked more closely at what minds do so that we could begin to put some healthy distance between who we are and the hypnotic effect of the mind. One of the most prominent features of a mind is its ability to judge everything. A mind judges other people, circumstances, and most of all, a mind judges your own actions, your words, your appearance, your worth, and your value. But here's the important distinction: we don't judge. A mind does that. A mind compares. And in the mind's comparisons, we either come out a winner or a loser, a victim or a villain, a saint or a sinner. But we don't compare. A mind does that. A mind predicts the future with urgency and drama. It adds details and evidence that seem impossible to refute. But we don't catastrophize and dramatize. A mind does that. A mind lingers in regret, grief, and resentment about the past. It spins really compelling, tangled webs of narratives with victimhood and unfairness as the common threads. But we don't ruminate about our past. A mind does that. A mind beats us up and plays compelling stories of self-sabotage. It offers evidence that feels rock solid, but it's not. But we don't beat ourselves up and we don't self-sabotage. A mind does that. And why does this even matter? It matters because when it looks like thoughts, stories, and judgments are ours, we tend to live inside those thoughts, trapped like victims. We get lost in an identity of a small, separate, vulnerable self, lost in conditioned beliefs that were added to us by our families, our teachers, and our society, lost in compelling illusions that our worth, our value, our peace, our safety, and our okayness are somehow found outside of us and are dependent on people and circumstances external to us. And by design, thankfully, we suffer. But when this distinction between who we are and what a mind does begins to be recognized on an embodied level, something softens. We begin to relate to experience differently. Instead of trying to manage experience, we simply notice that this experience is here. Sort of like, oh, disappointment is here. Okay, I can feel that. We gently remember who we are beneath and beyond what the mind says and does, not by effort or by force, but by noticing what has always been here. This whole waking up process that we're doing, it happens by grace, by something beyond the control and management of a narrating mind. It is not because of our work, our efforts, or our insights, but by grace, by something beyond our mind's capacity to even name. Waking up is happening. Seeing who we really are beyond a collection of human experiences begins to come more clearly into view, not as a concept, but as a feeling, a sensation, a felt sense knowing in the belly. This week, one of my clients and I tried a little experiment together, and he gave me permission to share this with you all. This lovely man has carried a very compelling and legitimate narrative that goes something like this. I had a shitty childhood, and no child should ever have to experience what I endured. Together, we honored that childhood. We named the shittiness of it, the unfairness, the grief, the rage. We named and honored the lingering questions of why and how could this have ever happened to a little boy? And then we put the entire narrative in a metaphorical glass ball and we set it in the palm of our hands, one in his hand and one in mine. The glass ball was simply called the shitty childhood. And we allowed all of the details and the mind's questions to be part of that delicate glass ball. But instead of going into the ball to analyze and agonize over the details, we each held the glass ball out at a slight distance from our chests so we could really see it. The shitty childhood glass ball. Together, we noticed the mind's urgent demands to go back into the ball, to describe more of the details, ask more unanswerable questions. But each time that urgency yelled, we thanked the mind for doing its job, and we returned to holding the glass ball and simply looking at it. I asked my client to look away from the computer screen and just watch the glass ball for several minutes, just to see what wanted to rise within him, physiologically, viscerally. Big emotions, strong sensations. Together, we stayed still and quiet for about 5 minutes. No words were spoken. There was some fidgeting, some movement, a tired arm that needed to rest, a locked gaze on the shitty childhood ball. And then the tears and him began to flow, softly at first, and then free flowing like a river. I stayed quiet, directing as much loving energy his way as I possibly could. And then he said these words, I see it. Again, I remained quiet so that he could feel in his body what he was seeing. After a few more moments, he said, that's not the whole story, is it? This shitty childhood isn't the whole story. There's something more I just couldn't see. Yeah. We weren't denying the story. We weren't trying to make sense of how parents and grandparents could do what they did to him. We weren't arguing with what happened or how it impacted his life. We would never do such a thing. But for several moments together, we held a space of openness, compassion, and kindness for that shitty childhood. And in doing so, my client saw for himself that all along, even in the worst parts of his story, there had always been something within him that was untouched, unmarred. Even as a small boy, the truth of him was always whole, complete, worthy, valuable, and made of love. He just couldn't see it until now. The mind had played all of the details of the shitty childhood for decades. He had lived inside those awful details as an identity for 65 years. And for the first time ever, he stepped outside of the narrative, not to escape it, not to ignore it or diminish it, but to hold it from the space of his true self. By grace, we wake up precisely when we wake up. We see that we are not the center of experience. We are the space in which experience is held, in which it is healed, and in which it is reintegrated back into the wholeness of who we are. What an incredible gift. So, what if you and I, you, whoever's watching this video right now, what if we just take a brief moment together? If it feels okay, you might let your feet notice the floor beneath them, not changing anything, just noticing contact. You might notice the sensation of your body being supported by a chair or a bed. The simple fact of being held. Now, without trying to stop thoughts or improve anything, see if you can just notice a thought as it arises. Maybe it's a judgment. Maybe it's a plan. Maybe it's a shitty story. But instead of stepping inside it, imagine placing that thought gently in the palm of your hand, the way you would hold a small, delicate glass ball. You're not pushing it away. You're not analyzing it. You're just holding it. And then notice something subtle but also lovely. The awareness that is holding the thought is already here, and it's quiet, it's steady, it's unmoved. Thoughts and stories, even the shittiest ones, will come and go. And this holding presence that you are remains. Nothing needs to change. Just notice. That's enough. Thanks, guys. I love you. I'll see you next time. Bye.